Good morning over there in the USA, and welcome to another Nacho Tuesday here. I have Lee Rubin with Confetti, and without further ado, we would love if you can introduce yourself and your company.
Awesome. Hey, Andy, good morning. And I know you're in Bangkok, so good evening to you. I'm Lee Rubin. I'm the founder and CEO at Confetti. I've spent the last 11 years working in the corporate culture, events, HR space. It's really been the entirety of my career. And I've been CEO at Confetti for over 8 years now, leading general revenue functions and the catalog of experiences that we have.
Very nice. What inspired you to start the company?
What inspired me to start the company? So actually, the idea for Confetti came when I was asked to plan an event at a startup that I was working for. And what seemed like a really simple task turned into a surprisingly complex project. There was like coming up with ideas, negotiating with vendors, navigating like internal approvals, just stressing over like the execution of the event itself. And I kept on thinking to myself, like, there has to be an easier way to plan great events, but there wasn't. So I built one, and I'm realizing that maybe the audience people don't actually know what confetti is. So maybe I can also share a little bit about that. Do you think that that's right, Andy?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just would love to hear more about it and how do you guys operate exactly. I know your company offers team building experiences. Would love to learn more about how you guys do that.
Yeah, so at its core, Confetti is a platform that helps companies build stronger teams and culture through curated experiences. So we have a catalog of hundreds of live hosted and self-guided experiences, everything from virtual escape rooms and cooking classes towards like just celebrating your one of your team members' birthdays or like wellness activities, etc. But what makes Confetti different is that we don't just connect companies with these vendors. We really handle the entire event planning lifecycle. So discovery, customization of your events, logistics, host coordination, communication, payment, feedback, and more. And we do this all automated through our proprietary platform. So the result is really just a seamless, worry-free experience for both the planners and the participants. And yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, team building is a critical component of company culture. How do you see the two intertwined? And how is this different than typical office perks or, some of the fun events that people try to put together on their own?
Yeah. So the way that I view it, and it feels like maybe you were asking also, like, how maybe do we define company culture and how does it differ from office perks or fun events? So company culture to me and to us at Confetti is really the shared set of values, the behaviors and the experiences that shape how people work together. And unlike perks or parties, culture really isn't something that you add. It's how a team really operates daily, communicates, makes decisions when no one's watching.
Yep. And the team building exercises really make people feel like they're a part of something, right? And that's kind of where part of that culture really starts, breeds, is that, your team members are actually hanging out, enjoying time with each other. Those kind of relationships really matter.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like there's an amazing sentence, and I don't want to butcher it, but it's really like that like about the power of play and how like spending just an hour with somebody, playing a game is often more powerful than what we could be doing just on our regular day-to-day basis in terms of getting to know somebody. So yeah.
So, what do you think about the challenges of today's hybrid or remote environments? What are some important signals that you'd use to see if a company culture is actually thriving in such an environment? And what do you think in terms of how do you bring these people together to have these team building exercises, even if they're very far apart from each other, like Bangkok and Miami?
Yeah. Well, culture is thriving when you feel it, right? When people feel safe to speak up, when you celebrate each other, when you take ownership. When communication breaks down or when engagement drops, that's really an early sign of that erosion, especially in hybrid teams. And it's important to be very intentional when you're investing in your culture. I often compare a lot of the things at work to kind of like the things that we have at home and at life. And like, you can't just go on a date with your significant other once a year during the holiday party season. It's a constant work of building on that relationship and improving on it.
Yeah. So what do you think in terms of companies that are scaling fast? What cultural foundation should be established before their growth really takes off? And it sounds to me like one of the things you're highlighting is consistency, encouraging people to consistently build those relationships with their peers. Do you have any other insights or tips that a company should consider before to define their culture before the company grows too fast and becomes something else entirely?
Yeah, I think before rapid growth, companies really need a clear set of values. They need that communication norms to be set up. They need to make sure that leadership is aligned with that, and that in fact that should be communicated directly from leadership. And without that foundation, like, culture really becomes inconsistent and just difficult to scale. It's important that leadership is driving the culture that they would like to see within their business, and the rest after that, like, people follow.
Yep. So what do you think in terms of the companies that everybody says we want to have great culture, but what are some of the common mistakes these people make in terms of not being able to properly implement this culture? It sounds like leadership not buying in is one of the key sources of failure. Do you have any other ideas on why some companies fail to get a really good company culture going?
Yeah, and I think, look, one of the main elements, and maybe that's the difference, like, even at Confetti, I wouldn't say that like our culture is perfect, but there is this like, we constantly are desired to, we care about culture. We want to have a great culture. We're constantly assessing what it takes to have a great culture. And I think having that mindset specifically from leadership is one of the core elements that, ultimately get people to have that be their strengths within their organization. One of the most common mistakes that I see companies make when they say that they want to have a great culture, but they struggle to get there, is that they confuse culture with these like one-off events or these like one-off perks. Yeah, instead of like intentional behavior. So the biggest mistake is not really defining what a great culture means and looks for them, and failing to really like live it through, but live it through with like consistent actions.
Yeah. And some of the things that your company does is creates more engaging activities as well, which is much better than just showing up to a free pizza party. You could actually engage with and have fun with your coworkers.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, the experiences range. There's, it's not always a one size fits all, though we have some experiences that are definitely loved by most, if not all. And it's really, doing the surveys and understanding what your team wants and needs when it comes from culture through regular pulse checks, and catering to those needs by creating custom programming for different teams, departments, and or your organization. So there's different levels of company culture. It's not just the company. It's that a team might have a different culture, a department might have a different culture.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, the one size fits all doesn't work for everybody. So I guess what other tips would you have for a company to really embed its culture and make sure that that consistency stays there? It's not just like a slogan you put up on the wall, right? Do you have any
Yeah.
other tips in terms of how do you really incorporate that culture into individual groups or the company as a whole?
Yeah, in terms of like really how to embed, let's say, core values, so there are driving behaviors, I think that those values really need to translate into like specific observable behaviors that can be reinforced through like recognition, feedback, and hiring. So an example of that is like at Confetti, we have like a gratitude wall. It's part of our Slack channel. Anybody can come in and just write publicly what, somebody that they're grateful for. Other people sometimes chime along, and when you're submitting a gratitude, there is the opportunity to select which company values are associated with that like piece of good feedback. So when values really guide daily decisions, they become part of the company's like actual operating system and not just that wall art. You really want to take a look and say, hey, how can we integrate these values into the daily work of our systems and our workflows and processes.
That's a good point. So in terms of like leadership and their ability to accelerate the culture development within the company more quickly, what type of tips would you offer any sort of leader to really, drive this home for people? It sounds like, consistency is a point that keeps coming up over and over again. Do you have any other ideas on how a leader can step into that role today and, really accelerate that cultural development within their organization?
Yeah, I mean, like leaders need to model culture every day through everything that they do, right? How they communicate, how they make decisions, how they handle mistakes, how they address policies and the changes to those policies. Their behavior really sets the tone far more than any written policy or company handbook. So it's important that the leaders understand the gravity and the importance of their impact within culture and that they lead through action.
Yeah. I've seen so many failed leadership, points of leadership where, a lot of people believe as a leader that, the rules are for thee, not for me. That's a kind of a common mistake I see. If you're going to project your rules on people, you should definitely be following the rules yourself too, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like, look, it's tough, right? I mean, I started leading when I was 23, and I think that a big portion of the first few years was a bumpy ride for me as a leader. And like, we are bound to make mistakes, but I think, learning from those mistakes, seeing how we want to come back and do better to our team, to our people, is really one of the things that will kind of separate the good leaders from maybe the less good leaders that maybe always think that they're right or don't really look into how their team's kind of thinking, feeling, behaving, adjusting, all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess along your journey, what are some of the top leadership lessons you've learned? And maybe from some of the mistakes you might have made, and we've all been there before. And the person that learns from their mistakes really, I think, truly understands the problem a lot more than people that just might read about something but they don't understand it in practice.
Yeah, I think for me, well, there are so many different like leadership, I would say, like moments or things that really stand out. But the one that I've really taken into my pocket is just like authentic vulnerability, right? So admitting to mistakes. I'm very big on asking for input, and I would like to say I'm big on showing empathy, but that I wasn't always this way. It was really a matter of adjusting and learning from the people around me and seeing how my behavior impacts that. But once you do figure out authentic vulnerability, I do think that accelerates culture fast, and it builds trust. It signals that everyone can show up as their full selves, which is a big component at Confetti, that we want people to show up authentically and share their voice authentically and debate authentically. And yeah, I think just repeating that on a regular basis so people understand, like, it's not just a one-time like talk track. It's really something that needs to be reminded to people regularly, like, hey, I know we're having a heated debate. That's good. It's good that we're bringing differing opinions. I want to hear more of them. We don't all just want to have the same thought. So repeating that on a weekly basis.
Yep. Yeah, a real leader pulls people along. A boss kind of pushes people, I guess, so to speak. But yeah, the leadership traits that you're describing definitely are more of like a pull. Like you encourage people to kind of follow you and want to be a part of the organization. And a lot of that comes down to authenticity, like you said. If people feel comfortable in their own skin and their role and their community, as in the coworkers that they work with, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable speaking up or sharing their ideas or just feeling like they're a part of the company mission and their work actually has purpose and it matters.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the most motivating thing you could ever get.
Totally.
Nice. So in terms of the experiences you guys do, which ones do you see move the needle the most? Have you seen anything that, really hits at home with your customers more than others?
Yeah, and this is a question that we get quite a lot. People, you go to a restaurant, you want to know what's the most popular items on the menu, and I think that for us, the big thing is like every company is different, every team is different, and so finding the experience that's right for them. But I think at the core of all of the experiences that we try to build and put out there, we're really trying to humanize the colleagues, right? We're trying to break down silos. We're trying to build empathy. And we do that through the form of, in many cases, shared laughter, right? So the most impactful ones to me are the one where the purpose is really just like laughing and allowing people to like celebrate in a new light, where they're not actually talking about work, where they're just seeing each other for the humans that they are, that have been put on this, random rock spinning around, and that we're here under a joint mission and vision for that organization. And we're all coming from different backgrounds and perspectives, and we can just put it aside and just remember that we're all humans at the end of the day. And I think laughter really helps bring that to life.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely does. So how do you balance fun and serious work culture at the same time? How do you convince, maybe, a more data-driven CEO or leader that team building is not just a nice to have, but an integral part of business performance?
Yeah, and look, I mean, it's kind of sad because I think that in many ways, a lot of leaders still aren't sure about how to do this. But I think, for me, the way that I view it and what the data has proven is that fun is really a vehicle for connection. It's not a distraction from performance. And the key is really designing experiences that align with business goals. And similarly, like collaboration or innovation or resilience, we also can be data driven and see the correlation like with events and team engagement, which can help further prove that ROI. So like we have certain companies that are part of a company plan that get access to all the satisfaction insights and that these events result in. And you can work with your customer success manager to map out engagement improvements per team, per cohort, based off of the events that they're doing. And we have an amazing case study. I can't share the name, but it is of a large company that many of us are familiar with. And what they've been able to prove through a program with Qualtrics is that what leads their engagement scores to have like the single highest like impact is just having experiences that are pure fun, that aren't about work, again, that get to see each other as the humans that we are. That's what's really making the impact.
Yeah, sometimes it is hard to manage, but it's it's something that must be done, right? Because you do know that company culture is very important. Same with any sort of community building effort. Bringing people together, is great for bringing this cohesion around the brand, if you will. What other tips, I guess, would you offer companies to be able to measure cultural efforts, whether they're working or not, beyond like usual turnover or maybe survey engagement metrics like you mentioned?
Yeah, and again, this is where like you can kind of you don't need like always metrics, right, to know how you're doing and showing up with your significant other or with your kids or with that. Like you can often feel that. So beyond surveys, I really like to look for qualitative signals, right? Like employee storytelling, like the energy that people are showing up to in meetings. Internal referrals are the team members recommending to their friends, like, hey, this is a good place to work at. How teams handle conflict is a really amazing like signal for culture efforts working. So culture shows up in how people act when challenges arise. It's not just like a number/metric on a dashboard.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. So what do you recommend for companies that are moving into a new geographies, for instance? Say maybe they're doing that remote work thing again, or maybe they're opening a new office. How do you balance like keeping your company culture the way it is? Say maybe a U.S. based company moving into Europe or some other local area where you want to be able to respect that local culture and the nuances of it, and be able to incorporate that to your larger team as you go global, of course, and take over the world.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a really great question because people, first of all, companies are expanding internationally, globally. I think that is an amazing opportunity for us to exercise true like diversity and inclusiveness. And on top of that, like cultural consistency doesn't necessarily mean uniformity. It's really more about alignment with that flexibility and really figuring out how to let each team express themselves authentically. And I always recommend just starting with a shared value system so everybody understands, what that looks like and making sure everybody's on the same page. It's talking about it, it's repeating it, it's reinforcing it on a day and a week to week basis. But it's also okay that certain teams from different parts of the world operate a little bit differently or have different cultural norms. And it's good to talk about what those differences are, so people can prepare for it. Like we have parts of the team here at Confetti that have a much more direct communication style. And we have others that, are a bit softer and less direct in their communication styles. And I like to just point it out like, hey, it's like, this is true diversity. This is true inclusiveness, is hiring globally and having those differences. We can't get to just say that and then not deal with the challenges that come with diversity and inclusions, which is our differences. Like we gotta figure out how to, make it all work when we're all kind of using very different operating systems internally.
Yep. Yeah, like the Seattle office might be a little bit more passive and less outspoken, but the New York people are going to tell you exactly what they think.
There you go.
Yep. So if you're a founder of a 10-person startup today, what would be the first thing that they should do to lay their cultural groundwork?
Yeah, and I remember the days of being a founder and a CEO at a 10-person startup, and I think what's really powerful there at that time, and like the magic that comes out of that time period, is that often the CEO and the leaders are so much like hands-on and like with the rest of the team, right? Because it is small, and so that groundwork often happens pretty naturally, but one of the groundworks I think is really defining your company's why and how you want to work together before you hire the next person, and really creating that like early clarity. I think prevents that like cultural drift as you grow. So like one thing that the team really got to experience with me during those early days that I think has built Confetti to what it is today is like the team knows how much I personally care about every event going as amazing as possible. Like they've seen me pour my heart into staying up late, double checking, making fixes when things happen, like always having a plan B. And I think a lot of that energy, because they got to see it and I modeled it onto them, they now are doing it. And I mean, I'll be the first to say some of them are doing even better than I am. Like they're amazing. They're rock stars. So yeah.
Yep. Show, not tell people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. Those you gotta do, not say. All the phrases.
There you go. So looking ahead 5 to 10 years from now, how do you believe company cultures will evolve, especially given generational shifts, remote work, and a lot of AI tools, of course?
So much.
Too much.
Culture is, we're going to continue to need to figure this out, but it's going to become more decentralized. It's going to become more flexible. It's going to become more values driven. So with global and hybrid teams specifically, I think belonging and purpose is really going to outweigh perks and like the beauty of physical offices.
Yep.
Another big thing that I'm very passionate about is empowering managers, empowering leaders, leaders that are new, leaders that are young, that are figuring things out for the first time. Like, we're just not doing enough of like giving people, managers, the tools that they need to succeed when it comes to building cultures. So like, this is something that's been very top of mind. We've released a new product offering called the Engagement Suite that is all about empowering managers and leaders to build a very highly engaged and high performing team. And all of those things, right? Belonging, recognition, fun, and productivity. Those are the 4 key kind of pillars that we believe need to be infused on a day-to-day basis in the meetings that we're having. Managers need help really kind of bringing that to life and crafting that.
I would love to learn more about this feature. What other things does it do?
Yeah, it's the Engagement Suite is really a very diverse tool set that it's manager-friendly resources, really designed to ensure that every leader, no matter their experience level, can really run effective, engaging, and consistent interactions with their team. So it's one of those things that you kind of got to see it in order to understand, but there's like 4 kind of key components to the toolkits that we provide. There's games that are largely optimized for like 15-minute connectivity points or less. We have like workshops. So if you're looking to deal with kind of more structured, like manager-led group conversations, like think about like, giving and receiving feedback, or how to even tackle harsh feedback, or things that require a little bit more of that conversation piece, the workshops are amazing for. We have workflows, which are really great for like day-to-day, week-to-week meetings. So think about your daily stand-ups, your weekly check-ins, your performance reviews, those things that happen in like those cadence-driven routines. And then the last one is our practice labs, which is our take on like L&D. I have a good amount of beef with how L&D is being approached today. And like a lot of L&D programs is like these just kind of pretty boring pre-recorded videos. We really wanted to take something and make it very engaging, interactive. So most of our practice labs are like hands-on, like worksheets and exercises, but with an embedded AI coach to really give you feedback. And it's using like scenarios that you might be dealing with, like your manager gave you harsh feedback. How do you process that as an employee? How do you give feedback back to your manager so they know, what they said bothers you, and like you guys can work towards evolving your relationship. So Engagement Suite has a lot of different facets to it, and I highly encourage anybody who's interested or heard a little bit about what I said to just take a demo and we'll show you around.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, actually. It sounds like artificial intelligence being used in the right way, not just another Me Too product. That feature sounds very valuable, actually, for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a good application of AI, too. So I guess where can people learn more about your company?
Yeah. Well, people can learn about our company by going to withconfetti.com. And we have a very interactive platform. I highly recommend to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I believe the LinkedIn profile page is Rubin L. Or just reach out to me at Lee Rubin. But either way, we're here, email, call, all the things. And pretty much, except for pigeon carriers, we're here to chat with you.
Very nice. What about bat signals?
Yeah, we're definitely into bat signals. So,
so I guess what's next for Confetti? You mentioned a couple other features, but anything else coming down the pipeline that you could give us a sneak peek for?
Yeah, it's I started to allude to it with the Engagement Suite, but really Confetti is redefining how teams connect. And it's not just through these like once a year, once every once in a while events, but it's really through the everyday moments to us that matter. And that's what we believe really help build culture. So really over the next 5 years or however else you want to say what's next, we're really expanding our platform to transform these like ordinary meetings into more meaningful, connection-driven experiences that really drive those 4 pillars that I talked about earlier: belonging, recognition, fun, and productivity. And our goal is to really make every interaction at work an opportunity to strengthen culture and engagement. And, our meeting and our time matters. We should come into it and we should get something valuable out of it. So,
well, I certainly think we've walked away with some valuable tips today. I think company culture is the cornerstone of any successful company. So I think anybody that's watching this webinar today, is kind of halfway there already. So really appreciate you coming on today, Lee. Love what your company is doing. For anybody listening, it's withconfetti.com. You could also find their product in the NachoNacho B2B SaaS and AI marketplace. We're proud partners of Confetti and what they're doing over there. Again, thank you again for coming on today, and we look forward to building our brands together.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks so much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
You too.